Welcome back to another edition of Viper Bites. We are talking AFC Divisional playoffs here. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tigger by the toe. This is what the Tennessee Titans will be looking to do in this round of the playoffs as they face the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend. Now, this is the only game on the docket that does not have that rematch narrative attached to it, at least not for 2021. Now, can the Titans find a way to slow down this Bengals offense? We know they don't stop, not even when there's a whistle. Well, at least that's the Bengals kind of situation. And Tennessee, little word to the wise, if you hear a whistle, keep playing, okay? I'm just going to tell you, keep playing. Yes, I'm a bitter Raiders fan. We get that. Now, against the Raiders last week, Joe Burrow did just enough to get the job done. 24 of 34, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, one to C.J. Uzomah, and the other 2, Tyler Boyd. Now, I'm still not convinced that the touchdown to C.J. Uzomah was actually a catch, but that's for another story, another day. Now, you have to give the Raiders credit. They were able to contain Joe Mixon, who finished with 48 yards on 17 carries. But it was Jamar Chase who was the real problem, finishing with 9 catches, 116 yards. And yes, I'll probably mention that 2 or 3 times throughout the show. The Titans, they have allowed 188.82 yards per game to receivers this season, which happens to be the second most. And the Bengals, they have 3 pretty good receivers. Now, the Titans, they have struggled against the pass. That is well documented. They've been stout against the run, allowing the second fewest yards on the ground to opposing backs at 64.06 per game. Now, let's look at what we have with the Bengals here, Joe Burrow. We have Joe Burrow, 4,611 passing yards to date, 34 touchdowns to only 14 interceptions in the regular season, and going head-to-head with his counterpart here in Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill threw for 3,711 yards, 21 touchdowns, but he also ran in 7 touchdowns on the ground, which is the second most of any quarterback at the position. Now, as for the run game, will Derrick Henry be back for this one? The answer is probably yes. I mean, he's trending in the right direction. Everything we're hearing has Henry playing in this game. Henry sits 9th. Yes, 9th in rushing yards with 937. He's played like 8 games this year, and he still sits 5th in rushing touchdowns with 10. So let me get this straight. He has literally played 8 or 9 games. He has just under 1,000 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns. That 937 yards rushing, that is the most for a player ever in the history of the National Football League to still finish in the top 10 despite missing as many games as he has missed. Now, how the Titans managed to secure the number 1 seed overall in the AFC despite Henry's absence, that is an absolute testament to the coaching job that Mike Vrabel has done and leading this team, leading his men this far. Now, when we talk about the Bengals for the run game, it starts and ends with Joe Mixon. Mixon was 3rd in the National Football League in rushing yards this season with 1,205. Yeah, and he added 314 more in the passing game along with 16 touchdowns. The Bengals trio of receivers is as good as it gets. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Now, Chase owns records. Bengals records, rookie records. His rookie campaign was one of the most impressive rookie campaigns we've ever seen from a wide receiver. 1,455 receiving yards, 4th in the National Football League. 3rd most receiving touchdowns with 13. As for Higgins and Boyd, Higgins, 1,091 yards receiving, 74 receptions. While Boyd, he was just shy of 1,000 this season, finishing with 828 on 67 receptions. He did see 94 targets, so he gets targeted. Not bad for a 3rd or 4th option in the passing game. Now, for the Titans, A.J. Brown led the way with 63 receptions, 5 touchdowns, 869 yards. Also missing time, playing in only 13 games. Julio Jones played hurt a lot. When he's healthy, he's a good receiver, but we just haven't seen a healthy Julio Jones for quite some time. 10 games this season. And this game here could really use him because this could turn into a shootout really quickly. Now, Joe Burrow and the Bengals are 9-2 this season when Burrow has a rating over 100. Not sure what's more impressive, the fact the win-loss record or the fact that he has eclipsed a rating of 111 of 17 games this season. Burrow is the Bayou Bomber. The Bengals offense is 1st in yards per attempt this season and 2nd in yards per completion. It's not a matter of if, it's more of when. when Burrow hooks up with that rookie wide receiver, Jamar Chase, deep, it's going to happen at some point. Sorry, Titans fans, your team has allowed the 6th most splash plays. When I'm talking about splash play here, I'm talking about receptions over 20 yards. Now, to further rub salt in the Titans secondary, Burrow has been next level over the last 5 games, a 130.2 passer rating, 75% completion percentage, 9.8 yards per attempt. And here's the kicker: 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And that's been playing some pretty good teams along the way. Now, we talk Chase, Higgins, Boyd. Chase has surpassed 100 yards receiving 6 times this year. And when he does so, the Bengals are 5-1. So if we can get Joe Burrow to a 100 quarterback rating and we can get Jamar Chase to 100 yards receiving, chances are pretty good that the Bengals are going to win this game. Earlier, I mentioned the yardage of the Titans secondary has allowed this season. Well, they've also allowed the 2nd most receptions, along with the 5th most receiving touchdowns to opposing wideouts this year. If the Bengals want to win this one, they need to find a way to get T. Higgins involved. Last week against the Raiders, 1 catch, 10 yards. That is not going to get it done. T. Higgins on the season is averaging 5.3 receptions per game, along with 77.9 yards per game. That's the T. Higgins that they need on Saturday. Now, where Boyd comes in handy is he is slowly chipped in with about 51.8 yards per game. He gets about 4.2 receptions per game. But the true wild card is going to be C.J. Uzomah. I mentioned that he may or may not have caught that ball against the Raiders. And I'll let you decide. Now, while the Titans have been tough on tight ends for most of the season, Uzomah has scored 4 or more receptions in 4 of the last 5 games. Not touchdowns, but you know he's going to be heavily involved. 4 catches in at least 4 of the last 5 games. Joe Mixon, man, you got to get going, brother. Listen, and it's going to be tough to manufacture some yards against this interior of the Tennessee Titans. We know that. We know they are stout. We know they're tough. And Joe Mixon, what you've been doing lately has not been getting the job done. In the last 6 contests, 6 straight contests, he has failed to average more than 4 yards per carry. That will not get a job done against the Tennessee Titans. They're going to need some kind of run game in order to help set up the pass. Maybe the pass sets up the run here in this situation here, but man, it's going to be tough. Now, we talk about the Titans here. The Titans have knocked off the best of the best throughout the season. I mean, playoff teams like the Chiefs, the Cardinals, the Rams, the 49ers, they've also lost some real head scratchers along the way. I'm talking about the Steelers, the Texans, and yes, the Jets. Tannehill has a 100-plus rating in 3 straight games while throwing 7 touchdowns and no interceptions over that time. The Bengals managed to hold Derek Carr to 69.2 rating last week, forcing an interception and a fumble and holding him to 5.7 yards per attempt. Tennessee has had issues protecting Tannehill, much like the Bengals have had issues protecting Burrow, allowing 47 sacks. But the Bengals, they did lose Larry Ogunjobi for the remainder of the playoffs. Sam Hubbard, he got a little bit dinged up. Trey Hendricks said he is in the concussion protocol. He just came out of the concussion protocol, actually, as of Thursday afternoon. Now, everyone's favorite Lord Reeves, Rich Reber, pointed out that Tannehill has dropped back 10.9% of the time this season with Henry, Julio, and A.J. Brown. Yes, Julio, Henry, and A.J. Brown have only been together 10.9% of Ryan Tannehill's dropbacks. Guess what? They're all there this week. So, you know what, Titans? Things are looking good. Now, while Derrick Henry he's going to be returning to form here this week, and I don't doubt there's going to be any issues with Derrick Henry, Dante Foreman, he's been able to perform admirably in the Kings' absence. We know the Titans love to run the ball. It sets up this entire offense, and it's not just the backs that run it. Tannehill calls his own number and averages 3 times per game, averages 4.9 yards per carry. He's also rushed, as I mentioned earlier, for 7 touchdowns. That's more than guys like Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara. Okay. Now, whether it's Henry or Foreman or a combination, this Titans backfield, these backs have to be feeling good watching the film of what Josh Jacobs just did last week against these Bengals, 6.6 yards per carry last week. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones. I mean, both receivers have been up and down, in and out of this lineup all season. There's been no continuity for this passing game. Let's be honest here. And for A.J. Brown, 1 week, he is an absolute world beater out there. He's doing things for your fantasy rosters that just make you go, ooh, la, la, la. And the next week, you're like, oh, come on, A.J. And Julio, you just can't trust him being in your lineup. It's that simple. But you know what? Julio seems to be rounding back into form. last week or week 18, I guess last time we saw these Titans with the bye. Julio Jones saw a season high 9 targets. He ran routes on 83% of the Titans' passing situations. With Julio and Brown, Tannehill's yards per attempt heads up to about 8.2 yards per attempt. How do I see this one playing out? Can the Bengals protect Burrow, who has been sacked 55 times this season? That's the third most. And we've got guys like Harold Landry, 12 sacks, 22 hits. Danico Autry, 9 sacks, 18 hits. Bud Dupree coming at Joe Burrow this week. Can this line for the Bengals hold up? I'm not too sure that they can, but we'll see. It's going to be a quick passing game that the Bengals are going to need to employ in order to get some breathing room for Burrow. Now, I don't see Mixon having a huge day on the ground, but he could be a passing option. I mentioned how I think Burrow needs to get that ball in and out of his hands as quickly as possible. Quick screens, draws, those kind of things. Bring some of that pressure off your quarterback and kind of make that pass rush sit back a little bit. Those are going to be the keys for the Bengals. And I said, it looks like Hubbard and Hendrickson are going to be able to play this week. Big news for the Bengals here. I'm just not sure it's enough to dethrone the Titans. My heart says, hooday! But my head says Titans win this one 28-20. What do you say? Drop it in the comments. Let me know what you think. And we'll see you next time. We got all kinds of division previews coming at you this weekend. Take care now.